The Lord of the Rings. Without a doubt, the greatest film series in its genre. Everything about it was done right. The plot, the storytelling, the editing, the color grading, the music. And then came The Hobbit.
I have two sides.
A very problematic series of films. In terms of, well, from every possible angle. The Hobbit doesn't even come close to the greatness of The Lord of the Rings. But today I, a colorist who has worked with films, music videos, commercials, and just between us was once responsible for editing a short film, will try to make The Hobbit better than The Lord of the Rings. Wow, I can't believe I actually did it. I did it. I improved The Hobbit. I genuinely love the work I've done, and I really want to share with you how I made it happen. Yes, my work isn't perfect, but this was a kind of challenge. A challenge to myself, a challenge to the entire world. Proof that one person in a short period of time can improve a film without any studios or resources. I just love the magic of editing. Many people, when watching The Hobbit, feel that something is off about these films. They feel kind of long and in some moments incredibly boring. Sure, some people might enjoy this film series, but train your taste, that's all I can say. An experienced viewer would never say that The Hobbit is better than The Lord of the Rings. But what exactly is the biggest problem with The Hobbit series? The answer is much simpler than you think. No, it's not the editing, not the 48 frames per second. No. Those are just side issues. The main problem with The Hobbit is that it's 3 damn movies. 3, for God's sake! In case you didn't know, the Hobbit films were based on a book, The Hobbit or There and Back Again. 1 book and 3 movies. Obviously, the decision to split the book into 3 full-length films was purely the studio's desire to make more money. 3 times more money. I mean, I don't blame them, but let's be honest, fitting all 3 parts into 1 full film would be... God, it would be insanely cool. You're so damn lucky I exist on this planet. So, what's the plan? Since we've identified the main problem with the Hobbit film series, the plan is as follows. Re-edit all 3 movies in 1 full-length film, while making sure not to miss any important plot points and preserving the adventurous tone of the story. And there is one more very important detail. At one point, I edited a complete short film from scratch, and it took me about half a year. So, in order not to stuck for 6 months again, this time I'm setting a very strict deadline. And I'm not talking about months or even weeks. My goal is to re-edit The Hobbit in just 1 day. 1 day to improve a Hollywood blockbuster sounds like a pretty cool quest. And lastly, let me apologize in advance in case I cut out a reference or a moment that's important for hardcore fans. The thing is, I'm not a really The Lord of the Rings fan. Sure, I've watched all the films dozens of times. I understand the story and I really admire the movies, but I've never dived deep into that universe. I'll be editing from this perspective. How would this movie feel better? After all, I'm a colorist and a bit of an editor. I'm not a geek, so fans, please bear with me. Even if we don't take into account the biggest problem of The Hobbit, namely speeding one story into 3 films, this series still has tons of other issues. For example, even if we compress all 3 movies into 1 whole film, we still won't be able to convey the full spirit of Tolkien's original vision. I haven't read the original book, but I do know that it's known for its light and simple storytelling. Tolkien actually wrote the book with children in mind, so it turns out that The Hobbit in its initial concept is a light fairy tale. Unlike The Lord of the Rings, which has well-developed characters, lore, stories and events. Let's keep all that in mind for now. Even though the storytelling, in my opinion, makes up 50% of the whole picture, the other 50% is just as important. And now I'm talking about the technical problems of the series. And let's start with a very non-obvious problem. A lot of people might not understand me right now. They'll start arguing and so on, but I believe that all films in the epic adventure fantasy genre, like The Lord of the Rings, should be shot exclusively on film cameras. Yes, it's way more expensive than shooting digital, but the result is worth it. For those who don't know, simulating the film look in movies is something colorists do, and I can tell you with full confidence, no matter what LOTs you use, no matter how hard you try, you'll never get the same image as you would if you shoot it on film. You can only emulate it. And that's not the same thing. I even made an Instagram post about this. If you're interested, check it out after watching this video. So, the decision to shoot The Hobbit on digital cameras, in my opinion, is laughable, but that's nothing compared to the next problems. Yes, this again about gear. But for some reason, director Peter Jackson decided to film everything in 48 frames per second. Let's not even talk about how unnatural it looks, or how not all cinemas can handle that frame rate, and so on. No, that's all subjective. But what's objective is this: double the frames equals double the CGI rendering. And CGI, in fact, is the next big issue. In The Hobbit, everything is animated. CGI is literally everywhere. That's why, even though the battles look massive, they feel incredibly fake. They recreated everything using CGI, like it's a video game. If you don't get what's wrong with CGI, it just looks unnatural, even now. Practical effects mixed with CGI, that's the direction to aim for. Even Marvel figured that out and made the new Fantastic Four with a focus on practical effects. But in The Hobbit, the CGI goes to absurd levels. I'm sure you've all seen how hobbits were made to look small in The Lord of the Rings, using physics and perspective. And here, it's CGI everywhere. The Hobbit has many more issues, but this chapter is long enough already. We'll come across the rest as we go through the video, so let's move on. Alright, enough talk. Let's get to work. Welcome to the editing desk. Yes, we'll be spending a lot of time here, so get used to it. And god, I just love how everything connects to the MacBook with a single cable. But that's not the point right now. Music. Music changes everything. I'm sure you've all seen those Instagram videos where they put different music over a movie scene, and suddenly the entire vibe of the scene changes. Now I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. We all love the music from The Lord of the Rings. Each track holds a special place in our hearts. Take the Gondor theme. Or the Rohan theme, for example. But what about The Hobbit? To be honest, there aren't really any standout tracks in the film series, maybe with the exception of the main theme. That one was actually memorable and majestic. So now, I present to you a scene from The Hobbit. Let's pray Warner Brothers don't file a copyright claim. Wow, what an epic scene. The music really fits the mood. Well, just so you know, I added that music. Here is how the original sounded. And like that, we can go through a bunch of different scenes. For example, this one. And yes, again, that's my version. Here is the original. So yeah, there is definitely work to be done. And here it is, the full project timeline in front of you. As you can see, I've combined all 3 parts of the Hobbit into one timeline. And what's next? Well, my task is actually very simple. Just like I said in my plan, I'm watching all parts of the Hobbit, and at the same time, to save time, I'm writing down which moments I'd like to replace, which ones I'd cut, add, and so on. The editing will be very simple, just basic cuts and a bit of sound work. Reminder, I have only 1 day to do all of this. That's the whole point of the challenge. But again, I'll improve in the Hobbit only through editing. Of course, I'll also show you how music and color grading can make the Hobbit better, but that won't be included in the final version of the project. After all, I'm working with a strike time limit. By the way, I can already tell that one of the hardest parts of the project will be stitching together the endings of each part with the beginning of the next, making sure the transitions feel smooth. Yeah, not the easiest task, but I'll handle it. But before that... Oh yeah, the whole video was nonsense, and now finally we've reached the one topic this idiot actually knows about. Yes, me. Problems with color grading in the Hobbit. Where do I even start? Well, first, let's open up DaVinci and go to the color tab. Here is our shot. And what can I say? The Hobbit doesn't have problems with color grading. The grade on this shot is solid. You can immediately tell that professionals worked on it. And if you have issues with the look, well, that's just a matter of taste. Alright, who am I kidding? That's not the original grade. Here is the original. Let's be honest, this looks much better. What I did was just create a neutral look. I tried to remove all the tinted neutral areas in the shot. If you're curious how to do this, I might drop a post on Instagram. Let me know in the comments. Why do this at all? Well, to show you how different looks sit on top of a neutral shot. Here I tried matching the shot to the Lord of the Rings, here to Transformers, and here something totally unique. So yeah, there's a plenty of room to play around, but again, all these looks are super subjective. For example, I personally like the original look by David Hollingsworth. I absolutely love that guy and his work. But still, wouldn't it be cool to see what the Hobbit would look like if it had a Lord of the Rings style grade? You can try it yourself. Just make some neutral shots like I showed you above. But now let's move on to what you all actually came here for. So, one full day has passed. I spent the entire day surrounded by cups of coffee and rewatching all parts of The Hobbit, and at the same time I was writing down in my notebook the moments I'd either cut or replace in my project. Then came hours of editing, reviewing everything and making adjustments to the result. And finally, I'm ready to show you the final project. Here it is, my project timeline. Please don't be scared how many cuts there are on the timeline. I approached this challenge seriously and with quality in mind. While watching the films, I highlighted a few moments I had to cut. Of course, the overly long battles filled with tons of CGI. I get it, action, spectacle, all that. But action should be justified and used in moderation. That's why, for example, I cut the final battle down a lot, focusing mostly on Thorin and Bilbo. While watching the films, one thing that really started to annoy me was how the storytelling kept shifting away from Bilbo to some random side characters. It felt like the creators were trying to develop everyone and at the same time no one. So I literally took all those scenes, moved them to the track above and hit delete. God, that felt so good. A lot of the Azog chase scenes, a bunch of moments in Lake Town, I cut those too. Honestly, almost every action scene in the movie is somehow tied to Azog, and it's just so frustrating. And the most annoying thing of all, there's no way I could leave this in. I completely erased the whole tutorial and killer romance subplot from my version of the film. Even as a kid watching The Hobbit, it annoyed the hell out of me. It felt so cringe. Yes, I get it, some people like it, but this is my version of the film. And what are you gonna do about it? I live in a different house. Anyway, just take another look at my timeline. The amount of work done here is truly massive. And I swear if I did YouTube professionally, and not just as a hobby, I'd make a separate 40-minute video dedicated to this project. And now the most important question after all my hard work. From coming up with the video idea to writing the script, editing the movie itself, and putting together this video. Did I actually manage to make The Hobbit better than The Lord of the Rings? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Of course not. No one could. This task by its very nature is impossible, but I really did manage to improve the Hobbit film series, just through basic editing. So, technically, this video should have been called I Improved the Hobbit. But let's be honest, that sounds way less clickbaity than I made The Hobbit better than The Lord of the Rings. But the core of it is this: an ordinary 18-year-old guy from Kazakhstan, who may have some connection to the film industry, was able to improve goddamn a Hollywood blockbuster. Guys, I just wanna say one thing. Always believe in yourself, even if the world doesn't believe in you. You're the only you've got, and no matter how crazy your ideas or plans sound to others, if you believe in yourself, if you feel like you'll get lucky with this, go for it. Sometimes believing in yourself is all we have, and honestly, that's all we need. And where can you watch my version of the film? The answer is nowhere. I'm not looking to get sued by Warner Brothers. I just wanted to show you my journey and experiment. But while I was writing the script, I decided to check if I was really the only one who thought of combining all 3 parts in one. Oh, how naive I was. There are unofficial versions of The Hobbit floating around various platforms, edited down in a single film. I watched a few of them and was shocked. One version looked so much like mine that I immediately realized I was on the right track. I understood that The Hobbit has common problems that annoyed not just me. I've pinned a comment with the names and my thoughts on The Hobbit edits I've watched. So, after checking them out, especially the first one, you can consider that you've more or less understood what I did in my version. Thanks for watching, buy my color grading, and we'll talk again soon. Bye bye!